Hi, Reed. Hi, Lene.
Hello, hello.
Hello there. How are
How are
you?
you today?
Doing great.
Oh, good. I like your background.
That was last Saturday
Oh,
at Spring Lake.
oh, that's gorgeous.
I have a nephew who just moved here and he wanted to go fishing with his Uncle Reed. So we went down there and had a great time. And that was what we were watching while we were fishing.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, what a beautiful thing to watch. That's a fun place. I'd never been there before. And then we went there not too long ago and it was really fun.
Yeah, I'd never fished there. I'd only been there like once or twice, but they're draining it in about a month and a half. And
Oh,
so
wow.
they've raised the limit to 8 per person.
Oh, that's nice.
So they can get the fish out before they drain it. So I thought, well, I might as well give it a try.
Well,
And
that's
it's
great.
had some good times there.
Oh, fun. Yeah, my little nephew, he's 7. Well, my dad's a huge fisherman. He always has been. And my little nephew that's 7 loves to go fishing with my dad. So they enjoy that quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, normally the limit here is only 2.
Mhm.
And so I rarely go there. But since they raised it to 8, I thought it'd be worth a try. It's a pretty good place for kids. There's some places that you can, lots of birds, ducks
Yeah.
and geese. And so it's a great place to spend an afternoon.
Well, that's nice.
And as you can see, it's ice free right now. So
Yeah, that's true.
don't need to take a drill.
That's true. That's nice. I know I've been to Heber a couple of times up to Midway a couple of times the last couple of weeks, and Deer Creek's not that frozen.
Yeah, Utah Lake, the harbor is about the only thing that's got very much ice on it.
Right. So, well, yeah, thanks for sending that community cafe stuff over. It was too bad we had to cancel it.
Oh, we just postponed it.
Yeah, postponed it. Yeah, that's true. Postponed. Let's use that word.
So many things were getting postponed that week.
Right.
It just seemed like this gives us another week to advertise, another month to advertise.
Yeah, and I think they've even already had some more people interested according to what Barbara said. So
Good.
that will be good. Oh, our offices are so hot. Ugh.
My office is in the basement, so I wear warm clothes at work.
Oh, yes. Ours is either, because we're in this old building, so it's either super hot or super cold. It's never like right.
Yeah.
I guess I worked quite a bit from home last week because I was doing CDBG monitoring, and it's just more quiet at home, when no one else is there. So, and they said that the broiler had gone out or something, and it was super cold. So I missed that part, but now it's working very well. Well, hopefully people are going to get on here. I had a hard time getting into Zoom. My password wasn't working. So,
Oh,
hi, Jenna.
hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I thought I was early.
Oh, well, you're a titch early. There's only 4 of us so far.
Okay, well then.
So, I noticed, when do you volunteer at the hospital?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Thursday from 10 to 1.
Okay, yeah. So I volunteer Sunday from 10 to 2
Oh, where do you volunteer?
at the south desk.
Oh, yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, the mean desk, the honorary mean desk.
I have a cute little partner, Madeline. She's 80. If she isn't 87, she will be any second. Anyway, cutest little lady ever. She can run your socks off and it's just fun. We
Well,
we
that
love
is
working together.
So do you guys get to like help people like, or do you have other employees there with you?
Well, there are employees are the ones at the desk on the computer
Oh, yeah,
that look up
that's,
people for visitors and this and that.
yeah,
We are just the guides.
yeah, that's what we are too. That's what I do too.
Yeah.
Well, hi, Mark.
Hello, everybody. How you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad. Had a good class today at UVU. Had a great speaker, and
Oh, great.
always fun to work with the business community.
What
It
kind of class are you doing?
I do a lecture series of entrepreneurs. They come in and talk to the students about their startup experience and what it's like to start a business and what challenges they had. And it's good. It gives them a good perspective of different industries and different types of businesses.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Hi,
Every
Marie.
once in a while, I think I'll take
Hi.
a class, but I'm too busy. It cut into my traveling. So there's no sense in taking a class if I know I'm going to miss a bunch of classes. So whatever.
Well, that's true.
We'll wait just a few more minutes. I know Angela couldn't be here tonight, but I think everyone else was planning on it, so. We'll just wait a few minutes. We have our new and old neighborhood improvement team with us tonight. So we'll have them introduce themselves and everything, so.
Just getting a pad so I can write down notes if I need to.
Hi, Karen.
Hello, I'm eating my dinner, so I'm gonna be off the camera unless you want to see me eating.
You're fine.
Are you eating something good?
Oh, yes, I made some gnocchi soup, like Olive Garden soup,
Oh, yum.
and then I'm looking at and some salad. So,
Hey, I saw you on the Meals on Wheels newsletter.
oh, did you? Yes. I've been doing that for a long time and love it.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, that isn't, it's one of my, well, I shouldn't say that when I'm here in this capacity, but it is one of my very favorite volunteer experiences. I don't want to offend Kenna.
So what route do you do?
I'm a substitute. So
Oh.
I mainly do seniors, orange, red and blue. I've done
Oh.
Walgreens. Those are the ones I tend to do, Orem ones.
Oh, I'm out of the I live up the north, but the one that was open when I volunteered is the 800 South Walgreens. So I do that blue route.
Oh, okay. I've done that before. Just as a
Yeah.
sub.
The Meals on Wheels guy was trying to talk me into being a substitute the other day. And I'm like, well, I would love to if I can fit that in sometime. So that sounds
Yeah.
fun.
If I don't
Yeah,
have a meeting,
yesterday they called me at 10 after 1 and
Oh,
said, we just found out we need a sub. I'm like,
oh
10
my.
after 1? Said, okay, I'm putting a coat on because Wednesday's my day. I'm not a sub. However, I have been subbing quite a bit lately for Monday because they didn't have a person. But anyway, yeah.
well, let's get started. We are missing a few people, but we'll get started. Margaret's coming in right now. Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Well, it's good to be with everyone. We haven't been together since September, so I hope you guys had a nice holiday season, a nice Thanksgiving, and I thought we would start the year off right in February, and we had a few things to talk about, so I thought we would get started. We have a new council representative. Lene Millett is going to be taking Brent Sumner's place as one of our council reps, and then Jeff Lamson is still part of this as well. So Lene, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself and say hi.
Sure, let me figure this out. I wasn't ready to talk, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna just be incognito and, a fly on the wall and listen to your meeting, but yeah, no, I'm happy to join this group. I got this assignment, and so I'll be joining your meetings. So let me know if I can help you in any way.
All right, thanks, Lene.
Welcome.
Let's just introduce ourselves and what we represent, what district we're representing. So we'll start with Reed.
I'm Reed Farnsworth, and I don't know if it's a name or a number, but it's the Sharon Park, Orem North area, sort of downtown from State Street to 400 East and Center Street up to about 1600 North.
All right, thanks, Reed. Jana.
Hey, I'm Jana Bauer, and I am, this is gonna sound really ignorant. Aren't I Geneva Heights and Suncrest?
Yes, you are.
Okay, okay. So 800 north to like 400 south or something like that, up and
All
down.
right. Thank you. Murray.
Murray Low, Sunset Heights, and Sunset Heights West.
All right, thank you. Mark.
Let's see, I am in the Lakeview area, kind of south of the southwest, I guess, corner of the city.
All right, and Margaret.
I am representing Canyon View, Orchard, and Cascade.
All right. And Sunday.
Oh, muted.
You're
Sunday.
on mute, Sunday. There you go.
I'm so sorry. That just happens way too easy. I'm Sunday Missouri, and I have Hillcrest, Sharon, and Orem area.
All right, thank you. And then we also have Angela Contrell. She is the Stonewood Lake Ridge area. And then we have David Bolton, and he is in northern Orem area. And I think he'll be joining us soon as well. Well, thank you for introducing yourselves. We also have some city staff with us. So Stephen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, Stephen Downs, City Manager's Office.
And then Grant.
I'm Grant Allen, one of the senior planners from planning staff.
Okay, and then we'll introduce our NIT staff in just a minute.
Hannah,
They're on the
Hannah?
agenda. Yes. Oh, I missed you, Karen. I'm so
can
sorry.
I introduce myself?
Yes.
I'm Karen McCandless, and I represent the Bonneville and, was it Timpview and Aspen neighborhoods. So pretty much 800 north to the Linden city limit and from State Street over past the freeway.
All right. Sorry, Karen. You didn't,
That's okay.
I missed you in the corner. I apologize.
No worries.
Okay, well, our next agenda item is we've already approved the minutes. We just need to put them into the record. So if I can have a motion to put the September 23rd minutes to the record.
I make a motion to put them in the record.
Okay, thanks, Jana.
Second.
Thanks,
Second.
Margaret. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, well, I thought we would give you an update on our neighborhood improvement team. We have been active for about 6 months now. And just recently we replaced Rory, who went to work for Kennecott or Rio Tinto mines up in Magna. And then when we were interviewing, we were so impressed by two of the guys that we couldn't decide. So we added a third to our mix. So we have 4 in our unit, and we will have them introduce themselves, and they're just going to tell you kind of what they're doing and some of their successes. So we'll start with Gary.
Maybe, Ken, if I could just add,
Right.
we've always been budgeted to have this many. We just, when we started, we kind of slow rolled it to make sure we had our processes right. So we had 2 vacancies, found 2 candidates, and then hired both.
Okay, thanks, Stephen.
Yep, no problem.
All right, Gary.
So I'm Gary. I've got my computer position low to make myself look even taller than I really am. But yeah, so I've been with the neighborhood improvement team since the start. So it would have been July 6th was my first day. And just kind of a quick summary of a little bit of what we've done so far. I'll just give you the rundown of the cases. So we're coming up on 500 cases here. We're at 497. The majority of them, or I would say more than half, have been reactive cases, just responding to citizen complaints. And we've also done some proactive cases as well. I was going solo for about a month and a half. So during that time period, I was just staying on top of my caseload and didn't do a lot of proactive. But in that time, we've had 215 abatements. So 215 people or homes, if you will, have come into compliance. And we've also, just for the record, 35 of the complaints that we've had have been invalid. So sometimes that happens. But I feel like we've been able to do it in a way that's allowed us to connect with the community and not upset too many people. And it's been really great so far.
What are the biggest types of issues that you've been addressing?
Yeah, so this time of year, vehicles are a big issue. So parking on landscaping is huge. Our parking enforcement team handles anything sidewalk out, so vehicles on the street, and they've dealt with a lot of abandoned vehicles. But it's amazing how many people just take that car and park it right on the front lawn and feel like that's a good spot for it. So that's one of them. And then unregistered vehicles too. And that's one of the issues that people have, is if they have an unregistered vehicle or an inoperable vehicle and it's in their driveway, you know, some of the feedback we get is, why can't I keep it in my driveway? And I always like to say, you know, if we scale that out, if everyone had inoperable vehicles in their driveway, what's that going to do to the appearance of the community and the neighborhoods and whatnot? And then that's worked pretty well in getting them to understand that. Once we get to spring and summer, the landscaping is going to be a pretty big issue. Last summer, there was a drought, so a lot of people just didn't water their lawns. So either dead lawns, no lawn, or overgrown lawn. I'd say those are probably the two biggest issues. And then we're also tackling some of the occupancy issues as well, which those ones take a little bit more time to work through that process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Brady, do you want to introduce yourself?
All right, a lot of you probably already know me. I'm Brady Andresen. I work for the Orem Police Department. I was working in NPU prior to switching over to the new NIT. So when they made the switch over to the new NIT, they wanted to have one of the police officers stay to help out with the program. So I was appointed to do that, and kind of helped with the transition, and then just kind of helped fill in where needs might arise with law enforcement, because sometimes it still does require that. Part of the responsibilities that the police department has continued to give me is with cleaning up transient camps, and I was just going to share a couple of photos from our recent cleanup. I don't know if everybody can see that or not.
No.
Just got to figure out how to share a screen now.
Look, that says green, it says share screen.
There we go. Okay. Is it showing yet?
We see it very well.
Okay.
Don't like what we see, but we see it.
This is a recent cleanup that we did. Just a couple of pictures to show. Well, there's a before and there's an after.
Where is this?
And there's another after. This is down by the UTA train station. Just off of 800 South, just east of the train station. So, yep, just a couple of before there, and then a couple of after. So these are things that obviously having me involved is helpful with stuff like this, because we tend to still have transients out there in the camps sometimes. So I go out prior to and try to relocate them, try to get them to move on. But then they usually leave us with a mess like you saw. And so what I'll also do is I will issue citations, criminal citations for littering, for trespassing, and for there's a state code for nuisance. And those all require court dates. And so they generally either have to appear in court, and if they miss it, then they'll have warrants issued for their arrest. And so we try to hold them accountable, and we work with them. It's not like we just go down and cite them immediately. We try to give them resources. We try to work with them on better options of where to live rather than just random places around town. This is probably one of the more minor camps that we've cleaned up. We've cleaned some that look like they've been established for several months, and dealt with small landfills is kind of the best way to explain it, of garbage, along with a lot of other stuff that just gets left behind. One of the major issues with these transient camps is when they pick areas to go into, we tend to have an increase in vehicle burglaries, burglaries in and around businesses, dumpsters, things like that. And that's generally what we're seeing when we go out and do the cleanup is likely property that they've kind of come across through vehicle burglaries, and things like that. And just kind of local homes and garages, just random things, a lot of random things that you wouldn't really expect to find, but you do. So it's just one of the successes that I've seen with NIT actually helping me on this assignment.
So is there anything that was on 400 North, the trailer park that's on 400 North between 1200, going up the hill right there? I noticed that recently there's a chain link fence and it says no trespassing, but there was just an area above the trailer park. And then suddenly it kind of looked like, yeah, cars have been driving there. And I wondered if people were just going down in there and hanging out.
I'm not sure what that area is. I wondered if maybe there's a canal buried there or something. The property itself is tied to the trailer park. So we did have a vehicle, what looked like an abandoned vehicle parked up there for a little bit. But it was one of the guys that works for the management of the trailer park had put a vehicle out there because it was easy access from his house up above. So once I kind of got after him for that, they got rid of the vehicle. And I've been back there and haven't heard of anything else with that area.
Well, now there's a big chain link fence that closes it off from the road.
Yeah, I think the trailer park put that chain link fence up.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Where are you able to find alternatives for them? Where are you able to get them to move to?
We don't really have a lot of good options. What we usually tell them is there's Food and Care Coalition. We have cards that we pass out that just kind of give them some resources that they can use. A lot of them do have cell phones. It's in English and Spanish. A lot of them already know about the Food and Care Coalition. Most of the people that we deal with in Utah County do not want to go to the shelters, because we do have UTA passes where they could ride the train up. A lot of the ones that we tend to deal with leave a lot of property behind, and so I don't know that they'd be able to haul all their property up to a shelter anyway. But they don't like it up there, the shelters. They say that it's not safe, and yeah, I guess they've had bad experiences. So we try to direct them to the Food and Care Coalition during daytime hours. That way they can get meals, they can get resources, desert industries, things like that. But generally we haven't found any one good resolution.
Aaron has a question.
Actually, it's more of a comment. In my other life, I'm the CEO of Community Action Services and Food Bank. Brady, I'd like to get some of our cards to you as well, because we have a lot of different resources that are available to those experiencing homelessness. We just received a grant to be able to fund more emergency shelter vouchers. So for example, this is probably more for the police, the patrol officers.
Mm-hmm.
But if people are out in the middle, if the officer's out in the middle of the night and sees someone sleeping out there or hanging out and they need a place to stay, they can take them. We have certain arrangements with some motels that they can take them, that the officer could take them to the motel.
Okay.
And then we would pay for the night. We have certain motels, but I'd like to get you some cards.
Yes, please. A lot of these resources have all come through Kenna. And so
yes, Ken is the resource guru.
But either way, reach out to either of us, and we'll be more than willing to pass those around and see if patrol can start getting passed out.
Okay.
Karen, is that a grant from like the federal through ARPA funding, or where's the grant money coming from?
It's a federal pass through the state. I don't think it's ARPA. It may be what's the other one that came in? The building. It's another federal fund that came through. But we received money it was COVID relief back in 2020. And then we still can use it, and it's for emergency shelter for those experiencing homelessness. It's also emergency rent assistance as well.
Okay.
I can wait to the end. I've got a whole bunch of different resources that I would like to share with this group, but I can do that at the end rather than do this. But yeah, we have a lot of different things available.
Any other questions for Brady? We are, because we're experiencing so many homeless camps, we've actually been working with, talking with the Salt Lake County Health Department to see how they're handling homeless camps. And we've actually we worked with our attorney's office, and we've come up with a process of how to handle them. And Brady's been instrumental in getting that going. So we will be bringing our mental health, when we find someone, we will be bringing in our mental health team from our police department to help provide resources. And then we have a process. Some of these camps are just too much for our guys. So we'll be hiring out some of the camp cleanup in the community to someone else. So, but we're in the process of getting that together.
Brady, your work is noticed and appreciated. I've noticed several places that have had a collection of people and their stuff that are not there anymore, and the places look a whole lot better now. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Brady, is there anything that the neighborhoods can do to help you in this regard, or to help the homeless individuals? Or is it best for us to kind of leave it to the professionals? And
I mean, we're always open to public input. If anybody has any good ideas, there's always the common answers of donate to some of the local organizations that help, rather than donating to or giving money to them on the street. A lot of the panhandling that occurs is generally a violation of some sort of law, just because they'll step into the street to take money, which isn't allowed. There's a few that know, and the businesses allow them to be there. And if they stay within the business parking lot, they're allowed to do that. There's things like that. But rather than giving your money directly to them on the street, donating to some of these, like the Community Action and these other organizations that help us with the longer term resolutions. And then the other thing is we just don't always know where they're at. Sometimes we come upon the camps on our own, and other times, if you're seeing it in your neighborhood, you might just need to call us and let us know, because we may just not see it. And if they go for longer periods of time without us going in and trying to figure out what to do with them, then they become really bad. And that's the part that Kenna was talking about, where our cleanup efforts, talking with Salt Lake County and how they do it, that has more to do with the cleanup, because it's become a public health hazard. And so we want to try to avoid it getting to that point. So
do we just call police dispatch if we're aware of that? Or
yeah, you can do that. You can call the non-emergency number, or you can do the 311 reporting system, things like that. Yeah, and then, like I say, unless there's any kind of emergency need, if you see somebody that looks like they may be suffering due to the weather elements, things like that, You know, just if it's something that can kind of wait till the next business day, then just do an online reporting or call non-emergency.
Thank you, Brady. Brady and Gary have been instrumental in getting the NIT up and going. So I really appreciate all their help and all that they've been doing. And now we get to welcome Jeff and Richard to our group, and they've been great the last couple of weeks. We've had them with us. And so we'll have Jeff introduce himself and then Richard.
Hi, my name's Jeff Turner. I've been doing this, like Ken said, for 3 weeks now. Before that, I actually worked here in the water department. I was a crew leader in water distribution. I've been with ORM for about 3.5 years. My favorite part of this is I've had the previous law enforcement experience. And so I kind of get to go in and use that in my communications with the public. I'm trying to avoid any conflicts. Richard, he can kind of attest to this. He's had a couple more complaints than I have, but I think it's just pick of the litter. But in doing this, you know, it's an opportunity for us to get out there to show the community that we're interested in what we're doing. We're not here to nitpick. We're not here to, you know, pick on that one house or to just pick on them. You know, I've lived in Orem my entire lifetime, and I want to make this place, you know, as beautiful as I can. I remember it as a kid crossing 800 North, and it was a 2-lane road. And it's never going to go back to that, but I can make it as beautiful as it was back then. I can make it safe for my children. I live on the north end of town, and you know, I live off 1600 North State. 1600 North is turning into just a busy road all the time, but I want a place for my kids to be able to go play out front, and I don't have to worry about anything happening to them. And that's my main focus of this.
Thanks, Jeff. Richard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Richard. Like Jeff, I've only been here for about 3 weeks, and this is my first position with the city. But I did grow up in Orem, went to Sharon Elementary, Canyon View Junior High, and left for a while. But it's after starting this position, you kind of see the difference from when I was a kid to growing up. And, you know, Utah is a great place to live, and you know, Orem's right in the center of everything. So, you know, like Jeff said, I may not live in Orem anymore, but still want everything to be nice here. You know, raising my daughter here in the state, and just want everywhere to be nice, because if one place is bad, then, you know, it just kind of filters out to everywhere else. So the goal is to just make everything better. And yeah, I know that in our position, we are going to get a couple of people that aren't too overly happy with us, and especially me so far. But, you know, we've also had situations where today we had a lady come out and say, you know, my husband's kept this trailer on our lawn for the last 4 years, and I'm glad that we finally get it out of here. But why is it that we get it out of here this time? And so we got to explain to her what our position was and what we're doing, and she was really receptive to it. So, you know, I think the longer we're around, Jeff and I are kind of doing a lot of proactive right now, and just I mean, we probably handed out 15 citations or 15 warnings on one street today, and just you know, got the whole neighborhood, and that way we let them know it's like, hey, you know, we can't do this house without that house. We want to make sure that they're not thinking that we're just singling anybody out. And we just explain to them that, hey, this is what we're here to do. This is what we're gonna make the city a better place. We're gonna make it cleaner and a lot more family friendly. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. So you can see we have a really good team with us. Just so you know, kind of the way that the team is going to be working. Jeff and Richard will be continuing to work throughout the city and all the neighborhoods. Gary is going to be assigned more of the target neighborhoods, which is our CDBG eligible. So that would be Sunday's area, some of Sunday's area, most of Reed's area, and Jana's area, and Angela's area. And he'll be doing some more proactive work and some reactive work in those neighborhood areas. And he's going to be doing some administrative work in the office as well. So, and then Brady will continue to be our support, work with our homeless camps, work with some of our neighborhood cleanups, work with those challenging residents that we prefer to have a police officer involved with us. So that's kind of what we're, you know, our direction is in the future. But we encourage you to make complaints if you see things. Dial 311-229-7000, forum.org/help. It really helps us if you go through the help center so that we can track those. But you can also call one of us if you need or email me or whatever, and we can assign those out. So do you guys have any other questions?
Just wondered what Richard's last name is.
It's Earl.
Hey, Kenna, maybe you're going to touch on this too, but I know you've been working the team of kind of updating how we're going to handle illegal basement apartments. Would you mind just kind of talking through kind of what our plan is in these different scenarios we run into? These are ones Gary mentioned. We don't resolve these ones as quickly as, maybe some other issues, but I think it'd be good to kind of step through what we're looking at there.
Yeah, so that was a good transition because that's the next thing on the agenda.
Okay.
So thank you, Stephen.
You're
So that's one of our biggest issues, being a little bit of a college town, having students, and is rentals, especially as the city grows, the university gets larger, we're starting to see more and more rentals, and we're having more and more issues with rentals. And so that's one of the things that we're seeing quite a bit of. And so we wanted to be more, a lot of it's been subjective over time. And so we wanted to be more consistent on how we were handling rentals. And so it gets a little confusing, but you all have I sent you guys the policy. I don't think I sent it to Lene and Jeff. Hi, Jeff. I forgot you were to say hi to you. So Jeff Lamson from our council is with us as well. So.
Hi, I'm I'm actually driving. So
okay.
Thank you for letting me participate. This is a great meeting so far.
Oh, good. So we decided to handle rentals in a little bit more consistent way. One of the things we were concerned about is making people homeless during a pandemic. That's one of the issues. And a lot of times these renters are not aware of the rules. So, they'll move into places, they'll sign leases, and these are illegal apartments, or there's too many people in the home or something like that. And the renters aren't aware of that. And so because of that, then some of our codes and things can make them homeless. So we're trying to be fair, but also be consistent in what we're doing. So there's really 3 types of rental issues that we run into. One is when both the units in the home are rented, but the homeowner is not occupying one of the units. So we run into that quite a bit. Well, where there'll be a 2-unit, a home with a basement apartment, where we have 2 renters in those units, or 2 renter households, excuse me. So in that case, we're going to property owners have in Orem with ADUs. The ADU has to be legal. First of all, it has to be legal through the city, the second apartment. And first of all, in that scenario, the homeowner has to live in one of the units. So, so say you have a house with a basement apartment, you would need to live in one of those units to be able to rent out the second unit. So for that, we're giving them a compliance of 6 months or to the end of the term of lease. So if there's a lease and there's, so whichever is quicker. So if the tenant has a lease and it's only 4 months left, then the tenant would need to move out within 4 months. And that would they would either need to move into the home in order to do both units, or they would only be able to rent out one of the units in the home. Does that make sense? So we're giving them a 6-month compliance. However, they have to provide our guys a 30-day plan. In 30 days, they have to tell us what the plan is. And then we will follow up at 3 months to make sure that that is still the plan. And then at 6 months to make sure they've been brought into compliance. So you should have this in front of you, a little more descriptive than what I'm telling you.
What's in front of me says 12 months, not 6 months. Compliance within 12 months of warning.
That's a different one.
Okay.
So that's the first one would be both units in the home are rented. Homeowner is not occupying one of the units. That's the first one on the policy. And I'll send this to Lene and to Jeff as well. I apologize for not sending that to you. The second one is if the accessory dwelling unit is not licensed by the city. So say the unit is homeowner occupied, but their basement is rented out, but it's not a legal apartment, which we see a lot of this, a whole lot of this. When the state law came out last year, it kind of made this even more of a problem than less of a problem, because, you know, there was less strict restrictions. So the homeowner has to live in one of the units, and we will give them a compliance of 12 months to bring the ADU into compliance. So that is making it legal with the city of Orem. And again, we will have a 30-day workout plan with the landlord. And then we will look at 3, 6, and 9 months, and then expect for compliance at 12 months. So that is the option for there. And then the third thing, any questions up to that point? Okay.
I do have, this is Karen. I have just a comment.
Okay.
I've been attending a lot of legislative meetings with regard around housing, just as part of my job. And I'm hearing rumblings of where the legislature may be further regulating, the state maybe further regulating accessory dwelling units. And one of the things that in some of the couple of presentations I've heard is that not requiring a license, the municipality is not going to be required or cannot require a license for an internal accessory dwelling unit. I don't know where I've been looking through the bills here. I'm trying to find if it's been introduced yet.
We were talking about that in the meeting today. I don't think that one has been introduced, but we're hearing that same thing and aware that that's likely coming.
Okay, yeah, I heard that one, and then also impact fees, but that's another discussion. But yeah, okay, that was just because I wanted to mention that just specifically because it was related to the issue we just talked about.
And and with those in mind, I mean, there's been a few things that have changed recently with basement apartments. One is, requiring cities to allow them in almost every zone. College towns, there's a little bit of an exemption. Not requiring separate heating and air. We used to require that. We're not allowed to require that anymore. And then the no licensing, and then the impact fees. And I think you can see kind of the trend of, hey, we want to make this a more feasible option for somebody to put in their home. These are generally seen as the more affordable units. It helps somebody live there. It helps somebody stay in their home. So I think you see this direction going for sure from the state.
And we'll have to revise this if that's what comes down to us. But at this point, what we're doing. The third one is the one we probably deal with the most, is too many people in a home, or too many tenants living in a home. So the rule in Orem is 3 unrelated parties or 1 family. So it's 1 family or 3 unrelated parties, if that makes sense. Now the family situation, the law for family is, the definition of family is quite wide, but that does tend to have a little bit of an issue when it comes to family. But what we see mostly is too many students living in a home, or so we have 6 people living in a home. Now we do have some student zoning that it does allow for more people in a unit, but that's just a few complexes, right, Grant? There's like 4 or 5 complexes at that. And so that's what we see quite a bit of, is too many people in the home. And so in order for that compliance is a 6-month compliance as well with the lease, 6 months, or if the lease is sooner than that, whatever is sooner is when they need to come, when they would need to move out the additional people. And we will also have a workout plan at 30 days with that as well. And then 3 months inspection, and the 6 months for compliance. So any concerns with that? Do you guys understand all of that? I know it could be kind of confusing.
So
what does ALJ mean?
So ALJ is our administrative law process. So a few years ago, we took code enforcement, nuisance code enforcement out of the court, and we created a civil court process. So this is so we usually have warning, then citation, and then we summons to court if we're not getting compliance.
So what does the J stand for?
Excuse me?
You had said administrative law.
Judge. So he is a judge, but it's not a criminal situation, it's civil. So he can, impose fines or force compliance, things like that. So we work with an attorney for a judge who works in our, and does ALJ about once a month. Any questions? Does that seem fair to everyone?
So about the family, so what is too many family? What does?
Gary, do you want to explain that? Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. So what you see quite often is, for example, if you had two brothers and two of their cousins living there, that would actually put them over occupancy because cousins do not count as family in the way that we enforce it. But at the same time, I could live in a house with my wife and my kids, and my brother could live in that same house with his wife and his kids, and we would be in compliance. So that's where it gets a little sticky.
Okay.
And the definition of family is a federal definition, isn't it? Is that correct, Grant?
I believe that we have modeled it after that. I might have to double check, but I believe so.
All right. So
I would say really quick, I would say one of the most common issues is someone buys a home and they might live in it for a year or two, and then they actually move out of the house and rent out the top and bottom floor. And that tends to lead to a lot of problems because when the homeowner doesn't live there, they tend to pay less attention to the house as well. And that's when things start to get run down. So in terms of the accessory dwelling code, I don't think we've run into it as much where the homeowner lives in the home and then rents out the basement, but just hasn't gone through the process of getting that approved. That's actually pretty rare. It's more frequent that they just move out and then rent out both units to try to, essentially collect double the rent.
All right, any questions? All right, well, I told the NIT guys they could go home early, so we'll excuse them, but I appreciate all that they do.
Gary to work for somebody who says 6:40 is early. I don't know.
All right, thanks guys.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks Jeff. Thanks Richard. Thanks Brady.
Thank you for
Thanks, guys.
So the next thing on the agenda is something I wanted to talk about for a whole year, and we don't have time. So I put it a little bit higher than our next discussion. So I hope that's okay, Grant. But one of the things that we have some matching grant funding that we used to use for a matching grant program in neighborhoods, where neighborhoods could apply for up to, I believe, $5,000. And they would have to match it with either money, donations, or service for a neighborhood-wide kind of event. So, Stephen, can you give an example of maybe what they did in the past? Do you remember?
Yeah, there was and I'm trying to remember specifically what the neighborhood was. It was up in the north, but it was kind of like a gate, an entryway, or what's the term?
It's Northridge.
Northridge,
pathway, wasn't it?
Yeah, you probably remember it, but it was before I got here.
Right, I still see it. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially updating kind of like a sign like that just kind of beautifies that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So the city was willing to put some money in, if they were willing to put the volunteers or the cash in to take care of it. But really, that's kind of the only project in recent memory that it's actually worked out quite that way. And I think even in that case, I think one individual finally came in and paid the cash to do the match. Again, it was before my time, so I may be remembering that wrong, but we have then this money and it's a decent amount. Kenna, do you remember how much?
It's $65,000.
Yeah, $65,000 that's sitting there available for this, but there aren't many projects. Most of Orem isn't set up in neighborhoods where there's that type of entryway sign into the neighborhood, right? There are some, but
well, there could be, Stephen.
Yeah, but where, you think of a neighborhood like mine, and you just would pick a random corner and kind of put it on that one, and it'd probably be somebody who wanted to benefit from, the city paying for a lot of their landscaping on their corner. there probably are some other opportunities, but for 8 years, 9 years, nobody's taken advantage of it and done anything with it. And we want this money to be used for good. And so,
I have a question, Stephen.
Yeah.
I was the one that pushed this initially, so I have a little bit of dog in the fight.
Can you mute this person, Kenna?
On the council, when I was on the council.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No.
So anyway, how much has this been advertised? How many people even knew about it? Since the Neighborhoods in Action program sort of fell apart, I don't think there's been a real effort to let people know that this was available, or really a way for the neighborhood to organize to decide what they wanted or what they needed.
Yeah, I mean, in most recent history, there hasn't been much. I remember when we first started trying to push it out and doing some things, but yeah, I couldn't give you a solid number on it, but we weren't getting any bites then. Yeah, I mean, there likely could be a project out there. I guess then the question is kind of, is that kind of a highest and best use of those dollars, or is there other opportunities for that money? But we could definitely try pushing it again, seeing if there's a project out there that meets certain criteria, which we'd want to define. Like, it won't be used to kind of, for one person to kind of better landscape their property, but there might be something there.
We had, I sent you a list of some brainstorming ideas we did a while ago, just some ideas that may be able to use the money. Mark had some ideas as well. Do you want to give us your ideas, Mark?
Yeah, so I was always impressed with what Bill Hurlstrom kind of said to me about one of the challenges we have in a neighborhood is you may have one or two outliers that really need some help. And in the past, frequently, we kind of organize service projects around that one or two project. And it really makes the individuals feel pointed out or highlighted that they're a problem in the neighborhood. And his comment was that frequently, if you can take a little larger swath to say, we're going to clean up a block, and so it's not specifically isolating one particular property, but is kind of going more after a stretch of properties that are all kind of somewhat connected, then it creates a more community-friendly service-related project. And there's a group of homes along the neighborhood where my parents live on 800 West and about between 100 South and maybe 200 South. These are homes in areas where when I grew up, these were old then, and they're even older now. And the opportunity was that there's 3 or 4 of them that are kind of clumped together that would be an interesting project for the neighborhood to see what could be done to beautify that area of the street or that area without, isolating or singling out. You'll see a few things that could be done. And so the idea that we kind of pitched to Kenna was maybe if there's, some funding to be able to drop some gravel. One of the areas that came up was one of the residents was ticketed because they had a couple of vehicles on the side yard of their place and were given a ticket, and because it wasn't on a gravel or on an actual driveway. So what the neighborhood was trying to do was to get some gravel brought in and trying to solve that related issue. The woman felt terrible. She was a widow who also had a young a child that was handicapped and just trying to make ends meet and just had no way to do it. And so you kind of saw the neighborhood willing to really rally around and help out this particular individual. And then right next door to her was another situation. And just down the street, about 2 or 3 houses was another one. So the idea was if we made some funding available for some gravel or for some things that would help improve their property and also improve the city, that the neighborhood would probably be very likely to get involved in providing the service and being able to make it a fun service, street-wide service project.
Thanks, Mark. Does anyone else have any ideas?
That's a good one, Mark.
Yeah, that is good.
I think the other thing on that is sometimes there are individuals that have some challenges, like some hoarding issues or some other things that they don't see it as being a problem. And so there's an unwillingness to say, I really don't want the help. I want to leave it the way it is. I think this would apply more towards those that say, no, I really do need the help. I just don't have the funding to help. This would kind of alleviate, I think, some of those types of situations.
One of the other thing is we had warned a person in the community, and she came in to meet with Brady and I because she was a therapist and she was concerned about, well, I guess it made her feel really bad that she got a warning, but she said she'd had other clients that had got warnings and it was, hurting their mental health. So she came in to talk to us, and one of her suggestions was, especially in some of these situations that are a little bit harder, like Mark has talked about, that, if we were provided a small grant or, or of some kind to that family so that they could fix up their yard, or they could, get the gravel they need or something like that. So that was another suggestion that this lady we met with last week had brought up. So
Those are great ideas. It's all about they want to have it done. We've got some people in our area that I've offered them, I've given them the brochures for the help and all that kind of thing. Yeah. Nope.
I think that's where the option of making it a little less focused or targeted and making it a broader, that we're doing the whole block, not just your house, sometimes can kind of help soften that. Another thought I had was, as I drive through some neighborhood, there's some areas where there's some old irrigation ditches that may or may not still be used. But it's kind of, they lie on that land where the property owner owns it, yet it's has easement rights from the ditch company. The ditch company is supposed to maintain it, yet the property owner, I often wonder if some of those types of projects could use some combination of work to improve them, clean them, make them safer, a little more visible, put some fences around them, do some things that would help eliminate some of the hazards with some of those remaining irrigation ditches.
I think those are great ideas. I also noticed on the list to provide deadbolt locks and motion lights. I think that there's probably several neighborhoods. I know kind of over in the Hillcrest area, right near State Street, kind of on that corner where we see a fair amount of crime, I think. I wonder how many of those homes, if they had a motion light installed, if we could get a neighborhood thing and maybe do a block or two of motion lights, if it could even help with our crime. And I'm thinking that would be one area, and there's probably a handful of others that I'm sure we could use some help identifying where, maybe it's something as simple as the motion lights being provided and us finding people to help install them could not only benefit the neighborhood, but also help our crime rates go down.
So these are really good suggestions. Maybe what we can do, Stephen and I can talk and maybe come up with a program of some sort that offers more, so it's not just targeted to like a matching grant situation, but a neighborhood situation where, you as a neighborhood commissioner could say, like Mark could say, we'd want to do this block, or, Sunday in her neighborhood, we'd like motion lights and deadbolt locks or something like that, that we could do some of these more block focused projects. What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay. Well, we will work on that this next couple of months and bring that back to you guys when we have something figured out. Does that sound good? And if you have any other ideas, just send me an email or, call me. That would be
I
great.
think one thing we could do is just drive around our neighborhoods and see if there's any areas that look like could be a nice target area to say, this is an area it would be really nice if this whole street or this whole area got a little bit of attention.
All right, perfect idea. Thanks, Mark. That's a great idea. If you guys want to do that, that would be very helpful. All right, well, thank you. Okay, well, I'm now going to turn the time over to Grant. We're going to continue some of our discussion from our last meeting on housing and some of those things that we had talked about before. And so we'll turn the time over to him. How late do you guys want to stay? You want to stay till 7:30? That sound
Long as you
good?
need.
Sounds good.
Okay, so
Whatever, however long it takes,
okay.
but not past 9.
Okay, well, Grant, let's have about a half an hour discussion then. Does that work?
Yes.
There we go. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So I'm just putting up, I'm just putting up this last slide with some recommendations that we had gone through last time. I know we left off from these slides and we had a really good discussion on some ideas and some recommendations. I think since our meeting in September, I'll show you this other report that we've submitted. State law requires us as a municipality to have a moderate income housing plan and report on its implementation annually. What kind of builds that plan together is there's a quote unquote menu of strategies that was adopted in 2019 by the legislature that will address moderate income housing for various incomes for all residents. And so we've prepared that it's due every December 1st. That is on our website. So right now I'm on the long range planning page, has all of our general plan, neighborhood plans that we've reviewed previously when I've attended this meeting and other neighborhood meetings. But at the very bottom, it has this moderate income housing plan and report. It's being a little bit slow, even though it's pretty small. But essentially, this has some of what these recommendations that we've talked about in years past through neighborhood meetings, neighborhood housing charrettes, housing summits. This incorporates some of those ideas to meet the state requirements, but then it also has some data from census data and American Community Survey data that shows our housing needs and kind of where there's a burden of housing on people as far as when it comes to affordability. I don't know why it's not loading. I don't know. Well, let's see here. Let me see if I can switch to it. 1 second. Let's pull up the PDF normally. Okay, so we have 7 strategies that we've adopted to address the moderate income housing. So this report is fairly, I don't know if you consider 34 pages lengthy. I consider, that's just not very lengthy when it comes to reading something, but it's a little technical. So, but it shows these strategies, summary. It shows the detailed requirements of our report that we're supposed to highlight how we're doing as a city adopting those strategies and implementing them. And then at the very bottom, you can kind of see, if you are a data nerd, you can get into, we're supposed to prepare kind of a 5-year span of adoption time. And so this is try to do some projections with the census data and what we're projecting in terms of population growth, housing units, et cetera. And so one of the things we use is what we call, from Housing Urban Development, HUD, they call it a comprehensive housing affordability strategy, a CHAS. And this kind of shows from census data how, where there's some cost burdens when it comes to affordability. So this is what kind of builds together the substance of this plan and report that we submit. I just wanted to kind of highlight that, since that's new since our last meeting and discussion about housing, and it relates to all the items that were part of this list and our existing discussion on what are some strategies. I know I think last time we kind of zeroed in on neighborhood housing strategies and the kind of, I think, that scale that we can focus on for the neighborhoods of how we can try to encourage some missing middle housing, which is, kind of the twin homes, cottage courts, size homes. That is kind of one of the reasons that we see some of the housing pressures, not just in Utah, not just in Orem, around the country, is that missing middle housing type, which we went through last time. Let me see if I've got some examples here. Where is it? There's a different graphic.
So are we mostly talking about owner homes or rentals?
I think when you talk about housing, you have to talk about both, because there's what you have is, there's a housing ladder, if you want to call it that, is as people go throughout their lives, there's going to progress towards ownership. And so you have to have a housing stock of ownership, but you can't have only one type of stock of ownership. You have to have a scale of typology span of types of housing that can be affordability for, even for owners, for owner occupied. But then you have to have, you will always have some rental as well, as that is typically more affordable. But because of the housing market as it is right now, we're even seeing that the rental rates are growing in such a rate that they aren't affordable either. And so we have this pinch point when you have a low housing stock in both cases, then you have pressures on existing owner occupied stock, which would be single family homes, turning into rentals. And that's what we've seen with some of the existing discussion on the earlier discussion on these homes turning into dual rentals. Is the housing stock, the housing market's so crazy right now, people are seeing, hey, I can rent this out for 2 units and make, quite a bit of money there. And so I think that's just the discussion that behind, well, how do we tackle some of that in different ways, right? The market's the market and it's going to behave the way it is. But behind that, what are some ideas we can come up with that move us towards helping take away that burden of housing on people at different levels. And so I'm trying to find that graphic on housing. Yeah.
Well, while you're doing that, and I don't know if this is an appropriate place in the discussion, again, just some things. I've been following housing issues for a number of years, particularly with what I do professionally. And Stephen, you can chime in or weigh in or whatever, but I am seeing an increased appetite by the state legislature to become more involved in local land use decisions. I think we saw that last year when they changed the accessory dwelling unit laws and some of the other things that are coming down the pike or could come down the pike as far as housing. So I'm really grateful that we're having this discussion now before something comes our way or could come our way from mandated by the state. So I don't know, Stephen, if that's, you're more dialed in on the municipal issues than I am, but is that what you're seeing? or Stephen might have to step away from
So
it.
Karen, I'll tell you, we had a Zoom call with many of the legislators in our area and including Senator Bramble in the first week
Uh-huh.
of January. And he told us that they were not progressing down that path during this legislative session.
Oh, okay, because during the year and in the interim and meetings and things, you hear different things. So I appreciate knowing that, because I just would hear things and think, oh no, I don't want the state telling the city that I live in, cities what to do necessarily. So that's anyway. Oh, that's good to know.
I sat in on a Zoom call with the Utah League of Cities and Towns today, and with a bunch of the mayors in the city, in the state, and that message was communicated very clearly to the legislature.
Great.
So hopefully they're listening and they'll let us deal with our issues. But you're right, it's always an issue. So we just have to stay vigilant and communicate with them.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're having this discussion, because I would like us to solve our own housing issues at our level, and I'd really like some of the recommendations, Grant, that we brought up from our last meeting.
I'm trying to find the note.
I can add to that, though, that it was
Yeah,
really
go for it.
interesting. The first day of the legislative session, they clawed back a local health mandate from Salt Lake County back to a state level. So the first thing they did this year was to pull back on some local legislation. I think it's a little bit situational in terms of if there's something that a city does that or a county that they don't agree with, they seem to be okay with making some fairly hasty moves to pull it back. But I think that's yet to be determined. I don't think it changes the 3 or 4 big problems that the state legislature is dealing with that are a result of the growth. And housing affordability has been a very big point of discussion, both from a business sustainability standpoint, as well as just the cost of housing has just been skyrocketing. So housing affordability, I think, is pretty high on their list of concerns.
It is. It really is. And so, and again, we've got to do something, and I would prefer that something be done at the local level rather than have the state.
Yeah, and Grant, I was gonna ask, has the scale changed a little bit in terms of I know there's been some wage increases that have been going on lately, and obviously the affordability indexes for both the low, middle, and higher range, I guess, is going to be income based. Do we kind of know what the price ranges are for what would be considered the missing middle housing price range?
For Orem or for the area, or
Probably for Orem, but my guess is it's what it is this year is probably a little bit higher than it was the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I'm blanking on a specific number. I know Kenna had shared a number from the fall that the local rents had risen about 50% in the last year and a half from the pandemic, but that was kind of a number for the metropolitan area, so Orem and Provo. And so I think what we are waiting for when it comes to some better housing data is some recent census data that's still kind of been pushed out because of COVID from the 2020 census, some more micro level housing data. They've released some higher level data, but it doesn't include some more targeted at the tract level. And so we are anticipating that sometime earlier this first, I think, half of this year, to where we I think I mentioned that in our last meeting, that we're waiting really kind of for some of that data to go in and do some more specific neighborhood level kind of retouch, because with every neighborhood plan we went through and we did some demographic analysis when it comes to population demographics, housing, economics, etc. And we used, the either existing census data or American Community Survey data. And so we're really kind of up against this wall with COVID delay from the census to take some of that recent data. I know that even since the census, there's some experimental ACS and census data we could use, but it's kind of use at your own risk, and the reliability is a little bit lower. And so I think that would be something that I'm glad to follow up on, is look that up either from a regional county level, or see if we can get some specific Orem City targets for pricing for the housing types, because I think that would be really helpful for this discussion and moving forward from lots of different ways, perspectives, I should say. I did find that graphic. This is what kind of has been coined in planning and land use, and I've attended a couple trainings on this, but this is kind of what has been categorized as the missing middle. And as the last 20, 30 years, as you know, the average single family home size has tripled as cities have chosen land uses and zoning for the last 20, 30 years. Some of these housing types aren't allowed, and as of, you know, just even to be built in a large part of cities across the country. And so that's why they're saying that it's called the missing middle, is that these housing types and housing unit size aren't in that ladder for people to have a choice to live in maybe a smaller unit, or grow as life grows. They grow with the units. And so without this choice, with these options being available to people, they are kind of caught in between when it comes to affordability, or even like you said, Mark, when it comes to, if we want to attract businesses, who are their workers going to be, and where their workers going to live if they don't have access to some of these, you know, smaller affordable units, then they're commuting longer distances to work for, a lot of times, still a low wage. And so that's kind of how this is all connected. You know, a lot of times in my as I've approached planning and housing or transportation, it's all kind of a system together, and you have to think of it from a systems perspective, that you have to think of one thing and how it's going to be connected to another. So this is why I think we talked about this a little bit last time. I do have these notes from our 2019 charrette, which we had these roundtables. I think we talked about that last time. I just wanted to kind of show some of these things today to prompt some more discussion, or kind of say, hey, where do we want that this discussion to go and continue this year with the neighborhood commission, and what direction does that look like? We've had these housing summits and charrettes in the past. Is that something we want to look at? I know I've mentioned the last few times I've attended either neighborhood leader meetings or this meeting, and I just did, that we're waiting on the census data to kind of revisit and do some more specific micro demographic research on the neighborhoods. So those are some questions. I just wanted to kind of open that up, and I think we've had a really good discussion so far.
So I have a couple questions. So as far as building some affordable housing, are we talking about, we're depending on developers to come in and say, oh yeah, I'll do that? Or has the city got money to buy a property and, you know, pay the person enough? Because I can tell you that the first thing that came to my mind was, we have just down my hill and up here on 1060, we have got these teensy little, we call them the chicken coops frequently, old places. So it's already a rental place. If there would be a possibility of somebody buying the property and putting some nice units there, you could probably, judging from the fact that we have 3 habitat houses And I'm on the board for Habitat, and we can't even get property. We've built our last house that we have property for. And Alan is having a terrible time trying to find any way that we can get property to build any more houses. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But where these little teensy awful units are, could actually become a nice set of units. And if they were one of those connected, fourplex thingies that was upstairs, downstairs. Now the ones that it's already up a little hill. So I don't think it'd be a big deal. I don't know if that landowner would be willing, because this is just a kind of a money pit for her. She just keeps getting rent on these little places. But I'm thinking, if it was me, if the price was right, I might sell that piece of property and let somebody build something nice there. It would improve the community and would make much better places where actually a family could live, as opposed to, two people is a stretch. But anyway, there's that right down here. Obviously, it's already zoned for renting. So just a thought. And right across the street, sideways from that, is an absolute dump. It's just a dump, just stuff there. And I don't know why in the world the city can't do anything. I know that the guy that owns it is a little mentally off, but nevertheless, that would be a piece of property. And I know that because I used to visit the lady who was his sister-in-law, and they owned that whole general area. The family had been here forever. Anyway, they were not able to sell that property without being willing to put in the sidewalks and do all this really expensive stuff. But if that piece of property could get bought, a house could be built on there, maybe even a duplex. It's not like it's a giant piece of property. I would think it will be big enough for a house. And that could improve that. I don't know if he'd be willing to give that up just because he's not mentally all there. But if the price was right, and maybe he got some encouragement from the rest of his family, that could be a place where something could get built to improve this area and provide a place for a family. So, but I don't know. I don't know what the whole, are we just waiting for developers to, because that's all they ever do is come in and start wiping out things and putting up big stuff.
I can speak to that kind of from one perspective. We do have a zone in the city that allows what we call affordable senior housing, and allows up to 4 units. And it's an overlay zone. And we've talked to, I think, I don't have a specific number, but we've had interested developers come in. They want to develop those. Then when they learn that there's an affordability requirement, they say, oh, well, I can't pencil the project. Land costs are so high, and you referred to that from a habitat perspective. Land costs are so high. Construction materials, we've had, that's been made worse by COVID, but they were saying even before COVID, materials were going up at such a high rate. Labor costs are so high that it's cost prohibitive for a developer to come in and say, yeah, I want to develop even just a small unit. I want to come in and do something. It's not cost benefit for them to then say, I'm going to sell these at 50% AMI, because they won't be able to even make a profit from it. And so what you have is you have a gap there, and so you have that housing gap and there's also the housing gap of people typically will try to pay less for housing than what's as everybody tries to. And so you have the units that you have a trickle down to where you have a housing gap at the lowest level of affordability, because the attainability for them and the units that would be priced for them would be taken by the next income up. And it trickles back up to where there's a gap there. And that's also been made worse by the market, where you have the market for a studio apartment in this area is now not even affordable for somebody in for what it, you know, I mean, if you guys seen the memes, the 10-year, you know, show your 10-year meme, and the joke in Utah and around the country actually has been, there's a home 10 years ago and it was worth $200,000, and 10 years later, the same home is now worth $600,000. And it's just a 10 years of span for a home that would have, you know, been a lot more affordable 10 years ago now is unaffordable for the same people who would have bought it, you know, 10 years ago. And so, but you brought up some really great ideas. I think we can look at what we had, and that's, I really was really excited the last time we kind of got to that part where we got people thinking about their neighborhoods and what is in your neighborhoods. And I think that's something like tailing off the last discussion, what Mark said is drive around your neighborhood and what does the housing look like, and what ideas do we have? Because I think that's where you can build synergy from talking about different ideas and different ways that we can approach this to try to move forward with, hey, we want somebody to be able to choose Orem to form roots and put their roots down. But if there's not attainable housing at different income levels, then that rooting isn't going to happen for a certain, they may not be attainable. So
does the city have any money that is supposedly supposed to be used to obtain land or whatever's for low-income housing, senior housing, whatever thing?
Kenna can speak to it best, but we do have access to some federal funding for projects like this through what's considered home funds or CDBG, and we have done that. Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, daughter's let me know about some things they shouldn't be doing, but so we have used that to purchase land or help renovate different properties. Kenna, do you want to speak to kind of the home process and CDBG?
Yes, so currently we did help neighborhood housing services, or it's NeighborWorks. They've got a big long name now, but the NeighborWorks, they use some CDBG funds to buy ground to build one of these senior projects. They're having a hard time affording to build it right now, but we were able to use some of our federal funding. So we receive community development block grant funding every year from the federal government. It can be used to purchase ground, homes, do infrastructure, but it cannot be used for building it itself unless it's a special kind of organization can use it for building, but there's very few of them in the county. Home funds are a little bit different. Home funds are federal funds. They actually come to what we call our housing consortium. It's a group, it's all the different cities within the county that come together. We receive, it just depends on the year, how many of those funds, but they can be applied for. So Habitat has applied for those funds in the past. The city can actually ask to have money allocated towards projects in their city as part of the consortium. So I sit on the consortium board and we make those allocations so people can apply for those funds. It's just very limited, when it's a couple $1 million at that, and you've got Habitats and NeighborWorks and self-help homes and Provo City and other cities asking for those funds as well. So it is good money, but you do have, the other limitation is it is for low to moderate income housing. So it's usually for people that make less than 80% of the area median income. So it's not, so they have to be able to afford the home once it's built as well. So, but it is out there. It's just very limited in nature. Same with our CDBG funds. We only get about 700,000 a year. And so that doesn't go
Goes pretty quick.
Very far. Yeah.
I will say, I remember on the city council, we bought a house once and that was coming out of care tax funds, and it was by the Sierra. And the intention was we were going to buy a series of homes along that 720 South and then turn that into the park. So I don't recall on the city that we've ever really gone into the home development or home improvement scenario. That's just not something we've done Orem City. Now, you know, Lene and Jeff Lamson, they may see that as a viable option going forward of allocating city funds towards some property development. But my guess is it's a hard thing to stretch in that direction. I think mostly the way a lot of other cities do it is they provide some incentives to developers to where we'll give you a higher density. In exchange, you'll allocate a certain number of that density towards a lower price controlled or a lower cost housing that addresses it. That seems to have worked in a number of cities where they can add, you know, moderately priced, but also include a lower priced income housing availability through some of those strategies. And Karen, you probably deal with some of those. Maybe you know more about what other cities are doing with trying to address the affordability on the low to the moderate income using some of those city strategies.
Actually, Mark, let me build on your idea. One thing I saw in a city is when land costs are high and you've got what I call postage stamped homes on big lots. Some cities will take kind of two what I would call landscape lots. You can buy those two lots together and then put them into three, like what I would call portrait lots, and all of a sudden your land cost goes down 50%. So you get three lots out of two. I guess it goes down by a third, and you can build more homes, and they're still single family homes, but they can be much cheaper. But part of it is, you know, maybe the city needs to show the developers this is how you do that. You know, if the city bought two lots together and then invited a developer to come in and say, hey, let's take these two and make three and put three small homes on here that are affordable. I think we just need to see it. And I've seen entire neighborhoods be redeveloped that way. And usually these are, again, what I would call postage stamp homes on fairly big lots. And I see quite a few of those here in Orem, but I just don't see, I don't know if we don't have the zoning that allows that to happen, but it's something that needs to be tried, I think, here in the city.
You've got some deep lot zoning, but I think I think a lot of it just still doesn't fit. You got to have a certain minimum size lot, and it's hard to make those fit. But yeah, I think that's Murray's right. There's a lot of ideas as far as increasing the neighborhood density by doing that. Another one would be to, you know, change instead of three, maybe you go with 4 people as a viable rental, and that allows them to reduce the cost of renting and make it a little more affordable, or relax the duplex laws to where 2 families could rent a house. That makes that more affordable. But right now we've kind of leaned to the side of not adopting those options in an effort to try to maintain and preserve our neighborhoods and to push the affordable housing more towards some of the higher trafficked areas. But that, you know, that's changing too. I think there's a pushback to say we don't want the apartments on State Street or on the higher trafficked areas either. So I'm not sure what the city council will do. It'll be interesting.
Well, Grant,
can I say something when there's a minute?
I'll stop, Margaret.
You go first and then I'll go.
Okay. I think I agree with the things that have been said. It's really hard right now, but I'm thinking about the fourplexes that are over on, close to 800 North and 2nd East, and they're over by Macy's grocery store. And you can't build, the zoning is such now that you can't build a fourplex in Orem.
Or a duplex.
Or a duplex. And I had a friend that they really wanted to tear down some old buildings that they had, but all they could get on there would be like that kind of a fourplex idea, but a really nice fourplex idea, but we've prevented it. And I think some of this stuff needs to be relooked at, and so that people can afford to do some of this stuff, because when some of our zoning laws are making it so they can't. And then impact, another incentive for builders is if we adjust some of the impact fees, if they do low income or a moderate housing. So those are two ideas that I thought of.
Yeah, as Mark was talking about the problem when you talk to a developer and say, can you develop this and make it low income? And he says, I can't. The costs are fixed. I cannot lower the cost of the land, and land is not getting cheaper. We're running out of it. It's getting more expensive. Building supplies go up, labor supplies go up. You can't build it for cheap unless you find ways to economize. And the best way I can look at it is you put more people in the same area. You do it by sharing walls. My outside wall is your inside wall, which means we're joined together as condos or fourplexes or 4-story or whatever. And as you know, where we have culturally grown up thinking that it's so nice to have a front yard and a backyard and a fence around my yard and separate from the family, from the neighbors and everything.
Yes,
But
it
as I
is.
look, it is, it's wonderful. As I look in my area, we were talking earlier about areas that could use help. And there are a lot of areas that could use help in my area. And as I was looking through them, none of them are the high density areas. The fourplexes, the multi-story buildings, the condos, they're all really nice. It's the single family homes that are the rundown ones. And so to me, if you're going to build the quality of life in that area, shying away from high density to go with a single family dwelling, I'm not seeing that in my neighborhood. That a year or two ago, I would have said that, but as I look at it now, that's not what I'm seeing.
And we have just the opposite in our area. It's the old fourplexes that I think they have a bad name because, you know, I think the new ones are amazing. And I think that that's what we need to help people see, that there's some of these new options that can be nice, because I know in our area, it's the old fourplexes, it's the old apartment buildings that nothing's been done to them in the last 40 or 50 years. And, you know, they look bad. And really, honestly, I feel bad for those that are in the situation that have to rent something that's in that bad of shape and hasn't been cared for.
Well, it seems like there should be something that would make the owners of those buildings upgrade it, and that they shouldn't be allowed to run down like that and have people living in them.
Your challenge is they're probably the lowest rent available, and those families, if the landlord went in and re-upped them, would raise the rent quite a bit, where those same families couldn't live there.
You know, I'd like to see, I know when we built our house years ago, there were housing monies, you know, to help people get a better price and lower down payment, things like that. What I see in our area is we have investors coming in and taking away these homes that are the fixer-uppers. And that's how they get fixed up, right? Is someone buys it as their first home, and it's their home. So they invest time and money, sweat equity into it, improve the landscape. There's one on 1600 North that is just amazing. It was probably flipped. I'm not sure what it was, but they painted the metal siding. They put shutters on it. They redid the landscaping, and it looks beautiful. And so to me, that's, you know, when you can, you know, fend off the investors and be able to have the homeowner have that opportunity to actually purchase the home, it solves a lot of those issues that we're kind of talking about from a perspective of uplifting our community and revitalizing our community. So, you know, I'm kind of thinking maybe that's what we got to figure out monies for. And maybe you guys who have been in this business for a long time, I heard Provo did something to help people with that. I don't know, but I'd like to hear if there are solutions that people have heard of down that avenue to actually get someone in the home where then they can take care of it. And we're not spending money as Orem City to say, here, let me help you fix up your house, but we're incentivizing them to buy the house and then they do it.
Karen, isn't there, or Kenna, isn't there It seemed like you'd mentioned there's a like up to $40,000 grant. It's not a grant, it's a zero interest loan for first time home buyers that helps them with their down payment. Is that?
Yep, so that is actually funded through home funds, through Provo City, and it's available in Orem. But it's for lower income homeowners, 80% or less. Right now, it's not being used that much because people just can't afford the home.
Now, Ken, when we say that 80%, what exactly is that?
So
now?
Yeah, so every year the Department of Housing and Urban Development does a survey of income for what they call an MSA area. And our MSA area is called the Provo Orem MSA, but it's really Utah County and Juab County. And they look at family size, they look at a median income per family size. And they say that people that make 80% of that median income are considered low to moderate income. So they're not median, but they're a little bit lower income. So most of these programs that HUD has serves families with 80% or less of that income. So it's about, probably for a family of 4, it's gone up over time. I can tell you exactly. So for a family of 4, it is $66,950 a year is what they can make up to.
Is that the 80%?
That's the 80%.
So that's gone up quite a bit, because when we did that study a couple of years ago at UVU, Ken, it seemed like the household average was around 57,000, and then 80% of that.
It goes up about 2,000 to 4,000 a year per household size.
Okay. So what you're saying is a family of 4, if their income is less than $66,000, could qualify for a $40,000 boost on their down payment.
Yes.
And when they sell the house, they would have to pay that back.
Yes, so it's change of ownership or sell the home, or if they start renting the home.
Yeah.
So Provo, yeah, Lene, Provo used to have a program. I don't think they do it anymore. Something similar to that, but it had, so if you bought a home in downtown Provo, so one of the older neighborhoods in Provo, then there was money for renovation, you could get money to renovate a home for up to a certain amount of money. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I like that concept that I look at neighborhoods in my area that struggle, and there can be homes right next to each other they were built at the same time by the same builder. They've been through the same history, but one is owned and one is rented, and the difference is night and day. And we've had a home that was just a trash heap that was sold, and the family that bought it and moved in purchased it, fixed it up, and it was great. The renter, the people who buy it to rent it are there for the money. The people who are there to live in it want a nice place to live. And so if we can encourage ownership over rentership, I think that would be great.
Can I say one more thing to Sunday's comment earlier about the motion sensor lights? I'm just going to share a little anecdotal kind of funny thing. So my neighborhood, right, where our homes are 30 years old. And about 3-4 years ago, a couple friends went out and they bought these brand new outdoor lights at Costco, right? And had their husbands change out their bright brass lights that were on there when we built the homes and put these pretty black ones on. And it was so funny. We all commented how we all then went out and upgraded our outside lights, on our home. And maybe it is just little things like that to kind of help people, the whole neighboritis thing, or what are the keeping up with the Joneses, just on a little small scale to, like Sunday said, get these motion sensor lights. It looks like someone's doing something good, and then maybe others will follow. I don't know.
It's actually a really, I've worked in revitalization for years, and it's actually a revitalization tactic. So when I worked for neighborhood housing, we did what you call paint your heart out, where we would go in and we would paint homes for low income homeowners. And you would be amazed that we'd paint a couple homes on the street.
Yeah.
And then maybe 2 months later, a couple of homes down the street got painted, and then a couple of homes. It's kind of that whole idea of the broken window. If you let the window stay broken in a home, you know, it brings down the value. But if you fix the broken window and you move on from there. So it really does work. That's kind of what I think with neighborhood revival, with our NIT team, if we can make sure that people are maintaining their properties and things, that helps as well.
Yeah, if you clean up graffiti right away, it discourages future graffiti. You leave it and it attracts more.
And that would be a type of program that would work, where the city could fund purchasing the paint if the neighborhood could provide the labor to paint the house. That would be fabulous.
Okay, I'll add that to the list.
I have a question. I love all these ideas and suggestions. How would someone, if they wanted to take part in that, receiving that help from the city, how would they know about that? Do real estate agents know of this, or how would they know that is an option if they were at a certain income level, that they could receive some help?
I'm not sure how Provo's marketing it. I mean, we have it in our brochures and on our website and our resident resource website. But I'm not sure how they're marketing it, but I can find out.
Okay, I'm curious about that. I agree that, hopefully with these new officers, that I'm thinking of a home in our neighborhood. And Reed, it sounds like you and I are in the same neighborhood. But I'm thinking of a home in particular that, it just bless their hearts. They've received a lot of help from church and scouts over the years, and it just doesn't ever seem to get over the hump of, where it could be. And yet, so I'm encouraged, with what I'm hearing. And hopefully, we can do some things that will encourage people. I love the thought of ownership and, building the neighborhoods that way, so that it's an investment in not only their home, but it's an investment in the neighborhood. And, that really lifts all boats. So I'm excited about that.
That program that you were talking about in Provo, did that mostly deal with homeowners that live in the home, that are buying the home?
Yes.
First-time homeowners.
Yeah.
I wonder, as far as how to advertise it and get the word out, I wonder if letting the real estate agents who work in that area know about it, because they would be able to use that as a selling point as they're working with families.
Yeah, I've wanted to go talk to the director of, the director of the UCAR, the realtors, about our NIT team. So I will make that appointment and mention that to him as well.
So Kenna, I met with, I think that's Peter you're probably talking about. He's got
Uh-huh.
another assistant named Matthew. I met with them this past summer. I'd love to join with you.
Okay.
In that meeting when you set that up, because
Okay.
they asked, how can we help you? So this would be great to kind of see where they are on that and what they can do to help get the word out.
Okay. Thank you.
I tag along too on that one, Kenna.
Okay. Well, Grant, do you want to continue the discussion, or we're way past our half an hour?
Are we done?
Great ideas. I think, I don't know what the commission would advise for moving, like what the next major step would be, but I mean, we could always just continue the discussion to next time.
Yeah, I think
What
we
would you like
respect
the
the
major
time.
step to be?
Yeah.
Grant, what would you like the major step to be?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily up to me. I mean, that's why
I would just like your advice or your opinion.
I think there's some great recommendations that came from the residents that attended that 2019 kind of roundtable workshop, and I think narrowing those down, I think one of the ideas that came from that workshop was, let's narrow down some of those ideas that we can get a lot of resident support across the broader spectrum of people involved and kind of buy-in from the whole city. and then we could take some of those recommendations to the city council and say, hey, what are some of these ideas that we can move forward with exploring that can try to move the needle when it comes to affordable, attainable housing, etc. So maybe what I could do is share those notes and some of those recommendations to this group. I mean, that group that attended we had some local realtors, we had some local housing developers, we had people who have been involved in this spectrum of housing affordability, local experts. And I think that's really important we have some local experts, some local ideas, because that's really what's important for building Orem better, is that local knowledge and local kind of on the ground focus. And like I said, kind of inward focus towards your neighborhoods, and then across the broader, as we focus on that, it builds out to the rest of the city. So
well,
would that be an appropriate?
Why don't we go that direction? I would like to go that direction.
I think that's kind of what we had taken away from that meeting. And then COVID happened, and we haven't had another kind of housing focused meeting since. But besides this great kind of continuation from last meeting to this meeting, I think this has been a very great 2 discussions on how do we kind of approach some different ideas to housing. So if I'm glad to pull those together, send that as a follow-up to today's discussion meeting, to share those ideas, and we can get those back kind of talking about and out in to each of your hands to kind of look at.
Thank you.
That sound good to everybody?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Grant. I appreciate that. And thank you everyone for that great discussion. I thought a lot of great things came out of there. So does anyone have any general neighborhood concerns that you would like me or Grant or Stephen to look at?
I've still got the concerns with the lights on 8th North not being lit, the ones that need to be lit. And also more need to be along there. It's very dark as you get down toward the mouth of the canyon. And was always my understanding that was eventually planned to put in the nice lights once that road got fixed. And I would really encourage you to do that.
Yeah, I'll talk to them again about that. I noticed it the other day that they weren't even on.
Yeah, that's
when I was
right.
driving up. Okay, yeah, I will find out what's going on there. Any other things you're hearing in your neighborhoods?
Hey, Ken, tied to that same last comment was, it seems like there's still pockets in the neighborhood where the lights haven't been installed or finished being installed.
Okay.
Would it be possible to get an update on what those areas are and maybe when a time frame is?
Yeah, I will follow up with Justin on that.
I think you had a comment in the last city council meeting about someone who was concerned their lights hadn't.
Okay.
So just an update on that, Mark. Our public works, is it Justin, I think was the guy, he sent some emails out and he was right on that. It was an issue with Rocky Mountain Power and the things being connected. And my understanding is the lights are up and working now, and the lady's very grateful.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there usually is some logical reason why those things are out. But I do know there are still some pockets where there's still lights to be installed.
Okay.
That would be interesting. I think in my neighborhood, they had marked them out a year or so ago, but they still haven't finished the installation. So I was curious about some of that, or I might be wrong on it too.
Okay, I can follow up with that. Anything else?
There's still the manhole covers on 4th East. Some of them have been fixed. Some of them have not.
Okay, that's good to know. I now know who to talk to about those too, so.
And it goes clear up to 16th North.
Okay.
The problem.
Okay, I'll check on those too for you, Margaret.
Okay, thanks.
So I have a question about my upcoming correctional facility down here at the Boy Scout office.
Oh, we were wondering about it.
We just went by last night, and obviously the only light that was on there still looks like it's getting renovated in there. I just wondered, I want to be aware of when this is gonna happen.
Okay, I'll check with those guys we had come and talk to us. I know there was some delays because of COVID and some other things, was the last thing I heard. Karen, have you heard anything more on that?
I have not.
Okay.
I was curious when I drove past there last week, and Jane, I wondered the same thing. I was just wondering what its status was, so I haven't heard anything.
Okay, yeah, I heard something the other day that they had some delays, but that's all. It was just in kind of a passing conversation. So I will follow up with him on that and get back to you.
Is there going to be any outreach to businesses in the neighborhood about what's going on there in addition to what's already been done?
I don't know, but I can check with him on that too.
I know they have done this some specific neighborhood meetings around that area. Yeah.
You know of any, Jana?
I don't, because I missed the last neighborhood meeting.
I own property down there, and I don't think I've received any notice of any updates or meetings about their plans.
Okay.
I can definitely follow up with him. He's very helpful. So
yeah.
All right. Anything else? Anything else from your neighborhoods?
Just a quick question, Kenna. With the things going on, I saw those posters for Hillcrest and Parkside. If we need more information about that, would that be at that community cafe that we'd want to attend?
Yes, I'm going to turn that. I was just going to turn the time over to Reed, and he's going to talk to you about that. So you guys are good transitioning here today. Really good. Thank you.
Let me do this Sunday. Because time is short. I will just send an email to all of you explaining it. I can do it better that way.
Oh, just give us a quick update.
Okay, quick update. Provo has a community center that we went and visited, Jana and her husband and I, and they do great things there. It started in an area that had high crime, and they wanted to reduce the crime by building a sense of community among the people that lived there. And so they got a community center there. They teach music classes, dance classes, they have all kinds of activities for youth and young adults and adults. They have gardens outside that people can have grow boxes and grow their vegetables in. They have people teach free choir and things for the kids. So they have all these programs so the people in the community get to know each other and learn skills and take pride in the area and know who their neighbors are. They'd like to do that in Orem, and they have 2 locations that they're looking at. The Parkside Elementary School and Hillcrest Elementary School. And there's a flyer on each of those that describes the benefits of doing it in each of those locations. Now, what they're doing is on March 1st, they're having a community cafe. And it's called Community Cafe because the community's invited and there's food. There will be pizza and salad for those who come. To make sure there's enough, they'd like people to RSVP. And one of those handouts has a QR code that you can use to scan and make your reservation to be there. The people that we would like to have attend that event on March 1st are those who know the needs of the community. People who have worked with like teachers or school administrators or religious leaders or the like that know the needs of the community, the residents in the community, anybody who's interested in it. Also, we'd like to get people there from the community who may be able to support it in different ways. For example, gardening businesses that might be able to help support the Grow Box program. Music people who might be able to help with the music. Dance people that might be able to, organizations that are able to do a little bit of philanthropy and donate funds or materials or resources. So if you know anybody who could contribute to this, either with their ideas or their resources, please give them this information and encourage them to come. It should be a very fascinating evening. I'm looking forward to it. Jana, what did I miss?
I don't think you missed anything, but we're going to miss the meeting. I'm sad.
Oh no.
We would have been okay with the other date, but this time we're going to be out of town.
Well, is there something that the city can do to advertise this to the people that are in the affected areas?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's actually United Way that is doing it, and they have, been reaching out and marketing and doing those things. And they have not settled on a location at all. They're just looking at various locations.
Well, it would sure be helpful to get some real information out, because talking about it like this is great, but it doesn't get very far.
Yeah.
And we need to send either a mailer or a city email to people so they know about it. My granddaughter, I'm pretty passionate on this one too, because my granddaughter is involved with this project.
Does the city have an email going out between now and then that they could just put a plug in?
Let me see what United Way's done, and I will follow up with Stephen and Pete on that.
That would really be important.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Although they only want like 100 people. So
Well,
1,000
to get 100 people, you
not
have to do
involved.
more than we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Margaret. I will talk to Barbara about that.
Do they want a special invite? Is that what you're saying? I mean, you want to have 50 people that get the special invite so they show up? I mean, sometimes you advertise free food and you're going to get a bunch of people that aren't even in that area. So I think you need to be targeted at where you're advertising in some ways.
Well,
Make them show their ID.
There are two locations.
No cookie for you.
You can send some special invites, but you also just need to let people know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we want a cross section. We want those who would need it and benefit from it.
That's right. And that's
And
resident.
those are the ones who would be coming for the free food. And we want those who can contribute to help make it successful.
I will talk with her and see what they're doing, and we'll see how we can help with that. So that'd be great. Anything else on that, Reed?
That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Reed.
Okay, now we have a little bit of sad news, but it's not super sad news, just a little sad news. So Murray has been selected to be on the Planning Commission. So we don't mind having him stay, but kind of city likes to have people, share the wealth in the city. So this will be Murray's last meeting, but we are going to need someone representing Murray's area. So if anyone has some ideas, Sunset, I never get the Sunset
Heights and Sunset Heights West.
Yeah. So if anyone has any ideas, let me know. I've had a few ideas come to me, and I can reach out to them and give them applications. But we appreciate all you've done this last year, Murray, helping us get this Orem Neighborhood Commission up and running, and all your great opinions and great advice. So thank you very much for all you've done.
Congratulations.
Great job there.
Thanks, and you're welcome.
We wish you well on the Planning Commission. So maybe some of our recommendations will be coming your way. So
I actually was thinking that today. I was thinking, there's interesting stuff that I'll probably be looking at down the road. At least I hope so.
All right. Well, if we don't have anything else.
And one thought that can I just share one more thought? I know I ramble a lot, and sorry, Margaret, I don't shut up. I know.
I love you.
But
Mark.
But one thing that I've been really intrigued with has been getting perspectives from different groups. And I was just going to say, I often wonder when we look at our neighborhoods, we're seeing it through our eyes as a homeowner. And to be honest, we're probably not in our teens anymore. I wonder if there would be any value in trying to get a little more input from people of a younger demographic that may be living in our neighborhoods that may fit this target demographic. And the reason I say that is I know for me, the dream was buy a home and have a nice white picket fence. I don't know that that's the same dream that some of these people that are 25 years old with double income. I'm not sure they're looking to buy a home as much as we might think they are.
They would rather play computer games than work in the yard.
What's that?
They'd rather play computer games than work in the yard.
Or have an exercise gym in their condo, or a swimming pool or something. They don't want to mow the lawn. I mean, there are some characteristics that we might be missing just because we're kind of all seeing it from the same angle. I don't know if diversity there would be a good idea or not, but just thought I'd throw that out.
Mark, one thing you might be interested in, we've been having conversations with a company called, and you can search them. The company's called Flashvote. And what they do is they obtain a representative sample of our community, and they do surveys for us that are quick in nature. So not intended to be a 30-minute survey that the only people that'll fill it out are people that are extremely passionate about the subject. And their methodology, we had a conversation with Mayor Young about this week. So we're going to present in a work session. Actually, this individual who runs this company is going to present. Their methodology is surveying more on on people's values than specifics. For example, as it relates to housing, unless you can engage in a really technical conversation, they may not be able to give a great survey or feedback on the technical parts of housing, but they would be able to tell you what they value, right? They value, one of the examples he used of a survey he did in California was, do people value a community that has different housing prices for different income levels? And most people would say, absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
I think that people, and so they try to push surveys that give elected officials really not necessarily here's the solution, but here's what they value. And now you need to research solutions that will solve and meet the values that your people have. And they use representative samples, and they do it through a myriad of methods. One of them being kind of a quick text of, hey, click this and answer these 5 questions, 6 questions. Really fascinating, really affordable. And what our council, represented to us. In fact, Councilwoman Millett was in that meeting as well, we know that there's people outside of this room that have opinions too, and we want to hear from them. If they don't show up, if we do things traditionally and they don't show up, we don't hear from them. So we've got to find ways to reach them. And our council deserves to know how the entire community feels, even those that couldn't make it tonight because they're at their kid's soccer game, or because they're at a responsibility with their ecclesiastical duties, or whatever it might be. We want to get better data to them so they can make those decisions. So we agree with you, Mark, completely. Yeah. And we hope to be able to deliver something that gives the council that kind of data.
Great, thanks.
Okay, well, if we don't have anything else, I appreciate all you do and all you do in your neighborhoods and all the support you give me and the city. If you have any needs or suggestions, you know how to find me. And we'll plan to meet in a couple months again. So have a good Valentine's Day and a good spring, and hopefully it warms up a little bit after this weekend. So
or snow.
It'll feel like February.
Snow, yeah.
We need moisture. Thanks, Kenna. Thanks, everyone.
That was wonderful.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting. Thanks.
Bye.